Support for today's episode comes from Amazon. Amazon is working toward a carbon-free energy future, doing more with less, investing where it matters most, and supporting communities where we operate. UN calls fossil fuel methane the fastest climate opportunity. Methane comes from farms, landfills, and energy production alike. But the UN's new global methane strategy singles out one sector as the place to start, not because it's the biggest source, but because it's the cheapest and fastest one to fix. The United Nations is placing an unusually strong emphasis on fossil fuels in its latest global methane strategy, a report titled 3 Sectors, 9 Actions by 2030, that Secretary General Antonio Guterres unveiled this summer. While methane emissions come from agriculture, waste, and energy production alike, the report argues that oil, gas, and coal operations offer the largest and fastest opportunity for meaningful reductions because the technology already exists and can often be deployed at low cost. Regulatory, financial, and political barriers, not technology, are the primary obstacles standing in the way. Fossil fuels account for roughly 38% of global human-caused methane emissions, second only to agriculture's 42%, with waste making up the remaining 20%. Yet, the UN estimates that approximately 75% of methane emissions from oil and gas operations could be avoided using technologies already available today. Existing technologies could deliver rapid reductions. Unlike many longer-term decarbonization strategies, methane mitigation in oil and gas typically means operational fixes rather than breakthrough technology. Measures already in commercial use include leak detection and repair programs using infrared cameras and remote sensors, replacing high-emitting valves, seals, compressors, and storage equipment, capturing associated gas instead of routine flaring or venting, and improving methane management in active and abandoned coal mines. The scale of the opportunity is considerable. Roughly 150 billion cubic meters of natural gas were flared globally in 2024. A volume roughly equivalent to the entire African continent's annual gas consumption, wasted rather than captured. Satellite monitoring is changing methane accountability. One of the strongest messages here centers on detection. Satellite monitoring has advanced enough that governments and operators can now identify large methane releases within days, rather than relying on companies' self-reporting. By February 2026, the UN's Methane Alert and Response System had sent more than 5,000 alerts across 33 countries, flagging major emission events at oil and gas facilities, coal mines, and other industrial sites. Response has lagged badly behind detection, though. Only about 12% of those alerts received a documented response in 2025. Guterres is calling on governments and operators to lift that response rate to at least 80% before 2030. Standards are becoming the next priority. Beyond leak repairs, the report pushes governments and industry toward consistent methane measurement and reporting, including asset-level measurement, independent verification, and an internationally recognized methane intensity benchmark that could eventually shape financing, procurement, and market access. It points to Norway as proof this works. The country banned routine flaring in 1971, taxed methane and carbon emissions from petroleum production starting in 1991, and raised that tax again in 2017. Norway now has among the lowest methane intensities of any oil and gas producer worldwide, and the UN estimates matching that standard globally could cut oil and gas methane emissions by more than 90%. The European Union's 2024 methane regulation, which adds methane intensity standards on imports starting in 2030, is cited as a newer example of the same approach. Future competitive advantage will likely depend less on the reduction itself than on proving it. Through measurement and reporting systems, regulators and buyers can actually verify. Sustainability Soundbites Energy coverage is sponsored by Amazon. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more about Amazon's Spotlight on Energy. For sponsorship opportunities with Environment and Energy Leader, please reach out to a member of our team.